Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Zicargo's Garage. It's been a minute. It's been the holidays. I hope you all had happy holidays, whichever ones are your favorite. And I hope that you had a nice break. We're back here at the garage, and we're not talking about this today. No. We're going to keep going with the Sentinal. So I've iterated upon the Sentinal, and I have the final product here to show you. But just to recap, this was the Sentinal Mark 1 that we came up with last time using these simple lasers, and then this one cosmetic laser sort of attached to it. This was the rough draft. Now I took a look at this rough draft and I basically just came up with a list of things I'd like to change. So thing number one I'd like to change is that it's a bit small compared to the weapon, and the weapon's a bit low AP and therefore very weak. So I wanted to up the strength of the weapon, and I also wanted the whole craft itself to look a little bit bigger in relation to the entire craft. I also liked the idea of these ion engines thematically for the build. However, they're kind of just not very efficient at all compared to the jets, and this thing really doesn't need to fight in space because it's primarily going to be some bit of an early game design. And so the next iteration over here, we've upped the size of the laser by 2, so we now have 9 beams instead of 7, sort of bulked up the outer sides. Now I never finished this version because I had a number of things I wanted to change for the final. I hadn't put the AI in, so we're still using old PIDs, and I implemented this little neat little thing I came up with halfway through the build process, where basically when they detect an enemy, they pull up their sidearms into a bit of a shield. We also switched it from RTG power over to engine power and added some flares up top here. It's also got to be said, there's a little bit of deco work going on here, hiding a passive radar and an IR camera and the ACBs and whatnot for the flares. And then here is the final version. Now I ended up switching this to a short range laser combiner, as well as painting it and all the rest. So short range laser combiner. I decided if this thing had to get close, then it needed to have a decent AP value. So this is an AP value of 38.2. Now an AP of 38 is not where I like my lasers. I generally want them to be at least 48 so that they can deal with stacked metal, and that's before shield and smoke and the whole shebang. But I kind of decided that this craft had 2 purposes, and the first purpose was this obnoxious little laser. So it gap closes and it harasses with this little laser weapon. And the second purpose is actually these massive shields and flares. This is kind of a space-making vehicle, almost a bit of an aerial tank. It's ridiculously cheap at 15k, but it's also pretty durable. If we take a look at what's going on here, we have a layer of decoration, and then a layer of alloy, and then a turret, and then more stuff that's just raw HP before you actually get into the engine and then the AI at the back. So as long as it's facing its opponent, you've also got these 2.5-ish layers of alloy on each of the shields that it faces. So it's got a pretty solid amount of HP for a craft this small that whatever vehicle will have to go through before it can actually fight. So this is a hybrid tank harasser that's also really small and cheap. It's not meant to be, a sort of perfect glass cannon, and I absolutely love a swarm of these things going on in. I also have a design that I'll show to you really quickly. It is definitely not done, and I spawned it too low. Thank God it didn't explode. This is going to be the mothership that will carry a swarm of these into battle. We'll do an entire episode just on this bad boy, so that's what you get to see so far. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Editor Zicargo popping into the middle of the video with a bit of a spoiler for later on. It's not much of a spoiler. Anyway, this design will go up on the Steam Workshop if this particular video gets 20 likes. I'm going to start doing this for all of the Zicargo's Garage series, so I think it's a really good way to give the channel a bit of a boost. Perhaps maybe you're one of the people who subscribed to my content because you wanted to see more, but pressing that like button, there's just not enough of a reason to yet. Maybe my videos are just too bad. That's okay. That's okay. Now there's a reason to. If the videos hit the like target, then the design featured in the build video will be put up on the Steam Workshop. So for this one, we're just going to start small. In general, the reason that I'm doing this is because the videos get advertised about 400 times per like. So if you're new to my channel and you've seen this video, it's because unfortunately this strategy has worked out and YouTube has recommended this because that's how the algorithm works. But anyway, thanks. I'm going to carry on with the video now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so here we are. I've made a couple of adjustments. So the first thing is I had to turn the back end into a mess of jets because I wanted it to be much faster. This top speed of 25 is not correct. Let's see. Let's have you retreat if you can. We'll see what sort of top speed this gets up to. I'm just going to sort of chill out for a little while. So what I ended up doing to fix the strafing problem, well, I guess I'll describe the problem. I couldn't get the left-right evasion in the AI to work properly. So what I did to fix it is I basically strapped a whole bunch of thrusters onto the side here, and I set them to be turning thrusters. Now these thrusters are pretty close to the center of mass. In fact, they're slightly in front of it, which means this rear thruster has to overcorrect a lot more. So it gives it this awkward left-right wobble, and it's horrendously inefficient on power. But it means every time it tries to correct its yaw a little bit, it ends up strafing pretty hard to one side and then of course back to the other because it is over correcting. I also set one of these thrusters to just continuously push a little bit so that it stops us from doing this weird jerking pitch motion that we were doing before. Let's go ahead and get the speed test going for this. So already we're up to 60 meters a second, maybe 62. Alright, so we are now officially on the Mark III here, and I've added a pair of drop missiles to the back. So these are pretty standard. They're just on a 1-second start delay. They drop down beneath the craft, and then they fire forwards. So without further ado, let's get into a combat test and show off the Sentinel. Now, this is, of course, a design meant for the Quest for Neater, so our punching bag today will be the Plunderer coming in at almost 188,000. Of course, they're going to get close up. The big key thing that's going to determine this fight is whether or not they're able to stay airborne after tanking those cram shells to the face. And it looks like the Plunderer here is going to need some very lucky hits in order to actually knock these out of the sky. It landed 3 cram shells on that one back there, and while it did knock it for a loop, it is still very much in the sky, meaning it has the chance to repair and get back in the fights. Now, they don't exactly have the ammo capacity to keep up continuous fire of their missiles, but they do have enough for a good 3 or 4 volleys. That crem shell to the back there seems to have taken out pretty much the entire thing. And while some of these have been AI deaded, like this one right here, it's also worth noting that as long as it is sustained by repairs, it won't actually get knocked out of a campaign battle. So these things are obnoxiously durable, especially in a swarm like this. But it looks like the spin blocks have been knocked off, and the pitch control has been knocked out on that one. But they are staying in the fight here. The Plunderer, how's it doing? It's lost a third of its health so far. There are still 7 of them up and fighting, and it seems as though they have won. Okay, so pound for pound, they did beat up the Plunderer. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here is a short preview of the other craft you can expect to see coming up on Zicargo's garage. We have Until the Plunderer is Dead to showcase what we've got going on here, so I'll go ahead and start over here. This is a whole fleet of different weapons and different ammo types and whatnot that I'm trying out for these little hydro bots here. Now, obviously, they are not done, so if they look a little rough around the edges, try to forgive them. We also have the Penguin Assault Sub, currently named the Penguin because it looks like it has the head of an Emperor Penguin on either side of it. We also have the mothership for the Sentinel, which is currently a work in progress, and my god, the frame rate is suffering. You'll have to forgive that, as well as its giant underslung missiles, which necessitated the version to the shift to the Mark III on the Sentinels. On top of that, we have the latest iteration of the Skeeter, which desperately needs to be renamed from the Skeeter. I'm thinking about something that makes it, something that makes it fit a little bit more with the Sentinel. Perhaps the the Guardian. I don't know. The Guardian sounds really grandiose for something that small. So we'll have to see. And then this is a bit of a prototype that's definitely rough around the edges that might turn into something very different down the line. I definitely have some plans for. This is a missile variant of the Skeeter, which of course has a much more updated aesthetic to match everything else. Very happy with how that has turned out, as well as a small border patrol boat with a variety of weapons and defenses. This little thing over here I'm quite proud of. That'll probably be the next episode, and you may have noticed the rather large battleship that is kind of just sitting here not doing anything because it is not set up to move correctly yet. But this thing, it's a gyro-stabilized battleship, okay? I did it because I needed to. I had to know if it could work. But yeah, that'll be getting its own episode. Anyways, the Plunderer is dead, so thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I've been Zicargo. This has been fun, and I will see you all next time.